The blackness of space rippled as something vast slipped into existence. It was not a quiet arrival. The sky above Earth cracked with streaks of violet lightning, and a shape blotted out the stars. The ship was larger than any human city, its metal skin shifting like it was alive. From the streets of New York to the mountains of Nepal, people stopped what they were doing and stared upward in shock. The alien invasion had begun. On the ship's bridge stood Commander Zaira of the Vathari Empire. Her tall frame was wrapped in silver armor that shimmered like water. 4 eyes glowed faintly under her crown-like helm, scanning the data feeds pouring across the holoscreens. Earth, a small blue world, spun lazily below. She had come here for one reason: conquest. And unlike other worlds, this one was supposed to fall quickly. Primitive species always did. Her voice was cold when she spoke to her second-in-command. Send the announcement. Let them know their skies belong to us now. In orbit, massive speakers unfolded from the hull, amplifying her words across every communication, channel television, radio, and even mobile devices. Across the planet, humans froze as a voice unlike anything they had heard filled the air. People of Earth, you stand at the edge of surrender. Your governments will kneel. Your armies will dissolve. Your planet will be annexed into the Vathari Empire. Resistance will bring only ruin. In Washington, military command centers lit up with urgent chatter. Fighter squadrons scrambled. Satellites swarmed to track the alien behemoth. In a hidden bunker deep underground, General Harris, a grizzled man with steel in his eyes, muttered. They picked the wrong planet. But Zaira was confident. She had conquered worlds with armies twice as large as Earth's in less than a week. Humans, she thought, were just another stubborn species that would learn fear. Still, she felt something strange looking at the swirling blues and greens of the planet. It looked alive in a way other worlds didn't. She shook off the thought. Emotions had no place in conquest. Her plan was simple: disable human defenses, establish orbital dominance, send ground units to strategic cities. Within 72 hours, the planet would be under Vathari law. But something about Earth made her keep scanning its surface, its glowing cities, its dark oceans, the flicker of storm clouds. She dismissed it as curiosity. Then the first human counterattack began. Jets streaked toward her ship, firing missiles that exploded in brief blossoms of orange. The Vathari shields shimmered, absorbing the blows. Zara almost laughed. Is this the best they can do? She asked, her tone dripping with contempt. Her ship's cannons targeted the incoming craft, and in seconds, burning debris fell back toward the planet. On the ground, the world panicked. Some cities prepared to fight. Others urged surrender. Across the internet, live streams of the alien ship went viral, and millions watched the massive, silent predator hovering over their planet. In a small apartment in Chicago, a young musician named Alex Cross sat with his guitar in hand. He had been watching the invasion unfold on his cracked laptop screen. Fear gripped him, but so did anger. His father had been a soldier, his mother a singer. Both were gone now, and the only thing Alex had left was music. He didn't know how to fight aliens, but he knew how to reach people. And maybe, just maybe, reach someone up there. He opened his window. The city was strangely quiet. He began to play not for anyone in particular, but because it felt like the only thing he could do. His fingers moved over the strings, coaxing a slow, haunting melody into the night air. High above, on the Vathari bridge, Zaira paced. The humans had pulled their forces back temporarily, but she knew it was only to prepare for another strike. She moved to the observation deck, where the planet filled the view. Below, the ship's sensors picked up an odd transmission. It wasn't military chatter or encrypted orders. It was a sound. She frowned. Is that music? A holographic waveform appeared before her. It was coming from a small, urban area. In the Northern Hemisphere, her communications officer asked if they should block it. But something in the melody made her hesitate. 'Twas unlike the structured chants of the Vathri war songs or the precision marches of their military bands. This sound felt alive, unpredictable, and full of something she couldn't name. She ordered the feed routed directly to her personal console. The music played on simple guitar notes, shifting between soft and fierce, carrying emotions she didn't understand but couldn't ignore, for reasons she couldn't explain. She didn't cut it off. On the streets of Chicago, a few people gathered beneath Alex's apartment window, listening. A woman whispered, "It's like it makes you forget what's happening for a moment." Someone recorded the performance and streamed it online. Within minutes, thousands were watching. Some said the song gave them hope. Others claimed it made them cry. On the Vathri ship, Zaire found herself standing still, for eyes fixed on the sound waves dancing across her screen. She realized her hands had loosened from the tight fists they had been in since arriving. 4. The first time since her mission began, she wasn't thinking about conquest. Her second-in-command noticed. "Commander, shall we proceed with orbital bombardment?" She didn't answer immediately. The question hung in the air like a suspended blade. Her mind was tangled in the sound, trying to decode it. The melody spoke of loss and love, of battles fought not for territory, but for the heart. "Not yet," she said finally, earning a puzzled glance from her officer. "I want to observe further." On Earth, Alex kept playing, unaware that an alien commander, the very one who had come to take his world, was listening. To him, the song was about survival, about holding on to something human when everything else was falling apart. In the Vathri language, there was no word for what she was feeling, but if there had been, it might have been something close to wonder. The invasion was on hold, and no one on Earth, not even Alex, knew why. The Vathri warship floated in low orbit, its shadow stretching over oceans and continents. Normally, this would be the stage in which Commander Zaira would strike fast, crippling power grids, silencing satellites, and leaving a world blind before the final blow. But the plan was not moving forward. Not because of human resistance, but because of a sound. The music still streamed from the surface, routed directly to her private channel. It was primitive in structure, compared to the complex harmonics of Vathri compositions, but there was something hidden in it, something alive. Zaira sat at her console, eyes half closed, letting the strange rhythm work its way into her mind. Every note felt like it carried more meaning than its size should. Allow, her second-in-command Ralvek, could not stay silent any longer. "Commander, with respect, this is dangerous hesitation. Our enemies are reorganizing. We must act now before they regain strength." She turned slowly, her gaze sharp. "Do you hear it, Ralvek? It's the way it rises and falls, not for tactics, but for emotion." "I hear noise," he replied flatly. Irrelevant to conquest. She could have ordered him to silence, but instead, she let the moment pass. She needed to understand this strange human sound, and for that, she needed time. Down on Earth, Alex had no idea an alien fleet was waiting. His live stream now had hundreds of thousands of viewers. The song had spread across social media with the caption, "Music for the End of the World." People left comments, some asking for more, others telling him how it made them feel less afraid. Alex played until his fingers ached, then let the final note fade into the quiet night. He set his guitar down, staring out over the city. Distant sirens wailed. Somewhere far above, the alien ship still loomed. He didn't know why it hadn't attacked yet, but every extra second felt like a gift. In the Pentagon, analysts studied the alien's sudden pause. "This doesn't make sense," one said. "They could have taken out our defenses hours ago." General Harris suspected it was a trap. They're buying time for something, he growled. Find out what. But even the most advanced tracking systems couldn't detect that the alien commander was simply listening. On the Vathri bridge, the crew was restless. These soldiers were bred for precision and victory. Waiting was unnatural to them. Rumors spread among the lower ranks that the human planet had some hidden weapon, that the commander was hesitating because she feared it. But no one dared confront her directly. Zaira, however, was not ignoring her mission. She began reviewing human cultural data. Images of paintings, films, and music flashed before her eyes. This species had built countless ways to express things. Beyond survival, the Vathri had art too, but theirs was always tied to status or victory. The humans? They created for reasons she could not yet name. Her attention returned to the song from earlier. She asked the computer to isolate the voice behind it. Grainy security feeds showed a human male seated by a window playing a stringed instrument. His face was not remarkable by human standards, but there was a certain focus in his eyes and intensity that suggested the song meant more to him than to any listener. Locate this human, she ordered. Within seconds, the ship's scanners locked onto Alex's apartment in Chicago. Ravek looked confused. Are we to eliminate him? No, Zaira said, her voice low. Bring him to me. Ravek hesitated. Commander, retrieving a single human from an active war zone. Do it, she interrupted. Hours later, as midnight crept over Chicago, a beam of pale blue light broke through the clouds. It descended silently, cutting through the darkness, and swept over Alex's apartment. He barely had time to stand before the air shimmered, and he was pulled upward. Into the sky, it happened so fast, he didn't even scream. The city below became a blur of lights, then vanished entirely as the alien warship swallowed him. Alex found himself in a vast chamber of metal and light. The floor beneath him pulsed faintly, like it was alive. Towering figures moved in the shadows, Vathri soldiers with elongated limbs and armor that gleamed like liquid steel. They didn't speak, but their eyes followed him closely. Then, one figure stepped forward. Taller than the rest, wearing a crown-like helm, her 4 eyes glowing faintly. She studied him without a word. You are the one who made the song, she said finally. Her voice was deep, resonant, and strangely precise, like each word had been shaped with care. Alex swallowed hard. Yeah, I guess that was me. Zaira tilted her head. Why? He blinked. Why? What? Why create sound when your species faces extinction? Alex thought for a moment. Because that's what we do. When things are bad, we try to remember we're alive. Music makes you feel that. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Feel. She said the word as though tasting it for the first time. And this feeling, it changes you. It can, Alex said, trying to read her. It can make you braver, softer, sometimes both. She was silent for a long moment. Then, without warning, she turned to her guards. Return to positions. No harm will come to him. Alex didn't know it yet, but that command would send ripples of confusion through the Vathri crew. Keeping a human alive, one with no military value, was not their way, as he was led away to a secure but comfortable room. Alex realized something strange. This alien leader wasn't just curious, she was listening, really listening. And that, more than anything, scared him. Because if someone who had come to destroy your world started to understand it, everything could change. Alex didn't sleep that night. The alien room they gave him was quiet, but too strange to relax in. The walls curved like the inside of a shell, glowing faintly with blue light. There was no bed, just a smooth platform that adjusted its shape when he sat on it. He had no idea if it was furniture or some kind of living creature. He kept thinking about the alien commander. The way she had looked at him like she was trying to see inside his head. She hadn't threatened him, but she hadn't promised safety either. And the biggest question in his mind was simple. Why him? Somewhere else on the ship, Commander Zaya sat alone in her private chamber. The recordings of Alex's music played again, looping through the ship's audio systems at her request. She closed her eyes and let the sound wash over her. It didn't make sense. The Vathari were taught from birth that emotion was a weakness, something to suppress. Yet here she was, commander of the most feared fleet in the sector, sitting in the dark, listening. Ralvek entered without being announced, breaking her focus. "Commander, the human is contained. Shall we resume the invasion plans?" Zaira didn't answer immediately. She turned the music off. "No, not yet. I want to learn more about him." Ralvek's voice grew sharper. "With respect, every moment. We delay gives their military time to coordinate." "This is a dangerous question, my command," she asked, her tone icy. Ralvek lowered his head. "Never, Commander." Still, Zaira could sense the doubt in him. The crew was trained to obey, but loyalty had limits when orders strayed from tradition. She knew she would need to justify her choices soon, or face unrest. Meanwhile, Alex explored. His room, there were no windows, but a small panel lit up when he touched it. The symbols on it meant nothing to him. Yet when he swiped his fingers across, the wall transformed into a translucent screen showing Earth below. His heart ached, seeing it still whole, still spinning in the void. He didn't know how long it would stay that way. Suddenly, the door slid open. A Vathari guard gestured for him to follow. Alex hesitated, then stepped into the hallway. The ship's corridors were vast, the ceilings high enough for 2 stacked buses. Strange machines hummed along the walls, and alien crew members passed. Without a glance, they brought him to a chamber unlike any he'd seen before. It was filled with floating crystal structures, each one glowing faintly. In the center stood Zaira, her silver armor catching the light. She turned toward him. "You will play again," she said simply. Alex stared at her. "You kidnapped me too. Play music." Her expression didn't change. "I require understanding. You will give it to me." He almost laughed at how insane it sounded. But the way she said it wasn't a request. It was an order. And yet, there was no threat in her voice. More like curiosity. "Fine," he said, "but I need my guitar." A moment later, one of the guards brought it in, carefully, holding it as though it were dangerous. Alex sat on a low platform and began to play not the same song from before, but something softer, slower. The notes echoed in the chamber, mixing with a hum of alien machines. Zaire listened in silence, her 4 eyes fixed on him. This time, she didn't just hear the music, she watched him. The way his fingers moved, the way his shoulders shifted. With the rhythm, she realized the sound was only part of it. The human was inside the music as much as the music was inside him. When he finished, she spoke quietly. "This changes you. It changes everyone who listens," Alex said. "It makes you remember things you thought you forgot. It makes you feel less alone." The words struck something deep inside her. Alone. She had never used the word to describe herself. Yet in that moment, she realized how it fit. A commander at the top, surrounded by soldiers, but never truly known. Always obeyed, never understood. But before she could speak, alarms blared through the ship. The lights shifted to red, and the crew's voices filled the comms. Ralvek's voice cut in. "Commander, human strike teams have launched simultaneous attacks on our orbital positions. Orders." Zaira straightened, all trace of softness gone. "Hold position. Deploy defensive drones only. Do not fire on civilian areas." Ralvek hesitated. "Commander, that is not standard protocol." "It is now," she said. Alex watched in confusion. "Why are you holding back? You could destroy them in seconds." She didn't look at him when she answered. Because destruction is easy, understanding is not. The defensive drones swarmed out from the warship, intercepting incoming missiles and disabling human aircraft without killing the pilots. It was a display of control, not slaughter. Down on Earth, military commanders were stunned. This was not how alien invasions were supposed to go. In the war room, General Harris slammed his fist on the table. They're toying with us, testing our limits. But even he noticed the odd pattern the aliens were pulling their punches. On the Vathri bridge, crew members whispered to one another. Some were confused, others angry. Why show mercy to a species you intend to conquer? When the attack ended, Zaira dismissed her officers and turned back to Alex. You will play again. Tomorrow, Alex frowned. And if I refuse, her gaze was steady. You will not. She was right. Something in the way she listened made him want to play not out of fear, but because it felt like the only way to reach her. What neither of them knew was that the longer this strange exchange continued, the harder it would be for Zaira to follow her original orders. And somewhere deep in her mind, a dangerous thought began to grow. What if conquering Earth was no longer the mission? The warship hung silent over Earth's nightside, its metal skin reflecting the faint glow of the moon. From the outside, nothing seemed to have changed. Inside, however, something was shifting, and it began with the commander herself. Zara had spent her life in the rigid structure of the Vathri military. Every decision was calculated, every mission precise. Yet for the first time, she found herself making choices without full tactical logic. She had delayed the bombardment. She had spared enemy soldiers. And she had devoted hours to listening to a single human play, a primitive instrument. Her people would call this weakness. She didn't care. In his quarters, Alex lay on the curved platform, staring at the ceiling's faint blue glow. He still didn't understand what was happening. The alien commander was obviously dangerous. One order from her could wipe out cities. But there was something in her questions, in the way she listened, that made him think she wasn't just another conqueror. A faint chime sounded. The door slid open and 2 Vathri guards entered. Come, one of them said in a low, distorted voice. They led him through winding corridors until they reached a large observation deck. For the first time, Alex saw space directly Earth floating below, its lights scattered like jewels across darkness. Zaira stood at the window, hands clasped behind her back. You see it differently from up here, don't you? She asked without turning. Alex stepped closer. It looks fragile. She glanced at him. It is, yet your people fight as if it were unbreakable. That's because we know it's worth fighting for, Alex said quietly. Her eyes lingered on him. In the Empire, we are taught that worth is measured in resources, in power. Your world has both. But this? She gestured toward the planet. I sense something else. Alex smiled faintly. We call it home. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Zaira turned away and activated a console. A holographic projection appeared, images and videos from human history. Soldiers marching, families embracing, crowds cheering at concerts. She had been studying them. You make war, she said, but also art. You destroy, but also create. I cannot reconcile this. Alex shrugged. We're complicated. Sometimes we're at our worst. Sometimes we're at our best. Music helps remind us which one to aim for. She considered that. Play again. This time, they stayed on the observation deck. Alex sat cross-legged on the floor and began to play a song his mother used to sing, soft, slow, full of longing. The notes filled the vast chamber, and for a moment, even the guards seemed less like soldiers and more like listeners. Zaira's eyes stayed fixed on Earth. But Alex could see her shoulders relax slightly. When the song ended, she didn't move right away. Finally, she said, "The Vathari have no songs like this. Maybe that's why you keep conquering," Alex said before he could stop himself. Her head turned sharply. But instead of anger, there was something else in her gaze: curiosity. "Explain. If you don't have music like this, well, maybe you don't have a way to remember why life matters. It's easy to destroy if you don't feel connected to what you're destroying." His words lingered in the air. Zaira didn't reply. Instead, she dismissed the guards with a wave of her hand. When they were alone, she asked, "If you were me, would you still take this world?" Alex hesitated. "If I were you, I'd ask myself what I really wanted: power, or something else I didn't know I needed until I found it." Her four eyes narrowed slightly, as if the thought unsettled her. "You speak as though you know me." "I'm starting to," Alex said. Before she could respond, Ralvek's voice came over the comm. "Commander, urgent. Human forces have deployed a high-orbit strike platform. They are targeting our shield generators." Zaira's voice hardened instantly. "Send interceptors, disable only. No fatalities." Ralvek's tone held the slightest edge of disapproval. "Understood, Commander." As the channel closed, Alex could sense tension between her and her crew. "They're not happy with your orders," he said carefully. "They will obey," she replied, but her voice carried less certainty than before. Back on the bridge, Ralvek watched her from a distance. He had fought beside her for years, seen her make decisions that brought victory after victory. But now, she was hesitating, questioning. To him, it looked dangerously close to betrayal of their purpose. Later, in her private chamber, Zaire replayed the song in her mind. Alex's words haunted her. "Power, or something else I didn't know I needed until I found it." She tried to imagine returning to the Empire with news that Earth had fallen, its cities under Vathari control. But in that vision, there was no music. No warmth, only another cold victory. And for the first time in her career, the idea felt empty. The warship hung silent over Earth's night side, its metal skin reflecting the faint glow of the moon. From the outside, nothing seemed to have changed. Inside, however, something was shifting. It began with the commander herself. Zaira had spent her life in the rigid structure of the Vathari military. Every decision was calculated, every mission precise. Yet for the first time, she found herself making choices without full tactical logic. She had delayed the bombardment. She had spared enemy soldiers. And she had devoted hours to listening to a single human play a primitive instrument. Her people would call this weakness. She didn't care. In his quarters, Alex lay on the curved platform, staring at the ceiling's faint blue glow. He still didn't understand what was happening. The alien commander was obviously dangerous. One order from her could wipe out cities. But there was something in her questions, in the way she listened, that made him think she wasn't just another conqueror. A faint chime sounded. The door slid open, and two Vathari guards entered. "Come," one of them said in a low, distorted voice. They led him through winding corridors until they reached a large observation deck. For the first time, Alex saw space directly Earth floating below, its lights scattered like jewels across darkness. Zaire stood at the window, hands clasped behind her back. "You see it differently from up here, don't you?" asked without turning. Alex stepped closer. "It looks fragile." She glanced at him. "It is. Yet your people fight as if it were unbreakable." "That's because we know it's worth fighting for," Alex said quietly. Her eyes lingered on him. "In the Empire, we are taught that worth is measured in resources, in power. Your world has both. But this," she gestured toward the planet. "I sense something else." Alex smiled faintly. "We call it home." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Zaira turned away and activated a console. A holographic projection appeared images and videos from human history. Soldiers marching, families embracing, crowds cheering at concerts. She had been studying them. You make war, she said, but also art. You destroy, but also create. I cannot reconcile this. Alex shrugged. We're complicated. Sometimes we're at our worst. Sometimes we're at our best. Music helps remind us which one to aim for. She considered that. Play again. This time, they stayed on the observation deck. Alex sat cross-legged on the floor and began to play a song his mother used to sing, soft, slow, full of longing. The notes filled the vast chamber, and for a moment, even the guards seemed less like soldiers and more like listeners. Zara's eyes stayed fixed on Earth. But Alex could see her shoulders relax slightly. When the song ended, she didn't move right away. Finally, she said, "The Vathri have no songs like this." "Maybe that's why you keep conquering," Alex said before he could stop himself. Her head turned sharply. But instead of anger, there was something else in her gaze: curiosity. "Explain. If you don't have music like this, maybe you don't have a way to remember why life matters. It's easy to destroy if you don't feel connected to what you're destroying." His words lingered in the air. Zara didn't reply. Instead, she dismissed the guards with a wave of her hand. When they were alone, she asked, "If you were me, would you still take this world?" Alex hesitated. "If I were you, I'd ask myself what I really wanted: power, or something else I didn't know I needed until I found it." Her four eyes narrowed slightly, as if the thought unsettled her. "You speak as though you know me." "I'm starting to," Alex said. Before she could respond, Ralvek's voice came over the comm. "Commander, urgent. Human forces have deployed a high-orbit strike platform. They are targeting our shield generators." Zara's voice hardened instantly. "Send interceptors. Disable only. No fatalities." Ralvek's tone held the slightest edge of disapproval. "Understood, Commander." As the channel closed, Alex could sense tension between her and her crew. "They're not happy with your orders," he said carefully. "They will obey," she replied. But her voice carried less certainty than before. Back on the bridge, Ralvek watched her from a distance. He had fought beside her for years, seen her make decisions that brought victory after victory. But now, she was hesitating, questioning. To him, it looked dangerously close to betrayal of their purpose. Later, in her private chamber, Zaira replayed the song in her mind. Alex's words haunted her. "Power, or something else I didn't know I needed until I found it." She tried to imagine returning to the Empire with news that Earth had fallen, its cities under Vathri control. But in that vision, there was no music, no warmth, only another cold victory. And for the first time in her career, the idea felt empty. The alien warship hung motionless over Earth's dawn horizon. From the ground, it looked like a silent, silver predator waiting to strike. Inside, however, the tension was far from silent. The air in the Vathri command deck felt heavy, like a storm about to break. Commander Zara stood at the center, her eyes fixed on the holodisplay of Earth below. Every instinct from her years of training told her this was the moment to finish the mission: strike hard, strike fast, claim the planet. Yet her hands stayed still at her sides. She had delayed too many times, and she could feel the weight of the crew's eyes on her. Ralvek stepped forward. "Commander, the Council has sent a direct transmission. They demand the conquest be completed within the next cycle. If you do not obey, they will strip you of command." Zara didn't turn. "And if I obey, what happens to the music?" Ralvek's voice was sharp. "We are soldiers, not poets. The music is nothing compared to the will of the Empire." Behind them, Alex stood under guard. He had been brought to the bridge at Zaira's request, though he didn't fully understand why. He listened to their exchange without speaking, but the meaning was clear. She was running out of time. Finally, she turned to face Ralvek. "Send my reply to the council. Tell them, the conquest is postponed." Ralvek's expression froze. Murmurs erupted among the bridge crew. Postponement was not a word in the Vathri vocabulary. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You know what this means? They will remove you. They may execute you." Zyra's tone was steady. "Then they can try." Alex's chest tightened. This alien commander was risking her position, maybe her life, because of him, because of a song. But what good was that if the rest of her fleet still wanted Earth's destruction? Zyra issued another order. "Clear the bridge. Leave me with the human." Reluctantly, the officers obeyed, though Ralvek's glare lingered as he exited. When they were alone, Zyra approached Alex. "I have a choice to make. I can leave your world intact, but it will mean losing everything I have in mine." Alex met her gaze. "If you destroy Earth, you'll win for a moment, but you'll lose something you didn't even know you could have." Her eyes softened. "Slightly? Connection." He nodded. "Yeah, that's what the music is about. That's why it got to you." They stood in silence, the faint hum of the ship around them. Finally, she spoke again. "If I choose to spare your world, will you help me face what comes next?" Alex smiled faintly. "You already know my answer." Before she could respond, alarms screamed through the ship. Ralvek's voice returned over the comm, cold and controlled. "Commander, we have incoming. It is not human forces. The Council has dispatched a Sovereign-class enforcer vessel. They are here to take command, and to ensure the conquest is carried out." Zyra's jaw tightened. The Sovereign-class ships were larger, stronger, and carried full authority from the Empire. Once they arrived, she would either obey or be removed permanently. She turned back to Alex. "You will remain here. This may be dangerous." But Alex shook his head. "I'm not hiding while they try to take you down." A shadow fell across the bridge's viewing window as the massive Sovereign-class ship emerged from hyperspace. Its hull was black, marked with the crimson insignia of the Vathri Council. A deep, metallic voice echoed through every corridor. "Commander Zyra, you are relieved of duty. Prepare to transfer control of your fleet." Zyra's eyes narrowed. Not yet. The two ships locked into a tense standoff over Earth, the humans below watching as if the sky itself might crack open. Alex looked at her, spoke the only words he could think of. "If you have one last chance to show them why you're doing this, play the music for them." Her gaze met his, and for the first time, she smiled just slightly. "Then we will make them listen." The black hull of the Sovereign-class enforcer loomed beside Zyra's warship, like a predator ready to strike. Its crimson insignia burned bright against the darkness of space, a warning to anyone who dared to disobey the Council. Every Vathri in the fleet knew what it meant. Orders from this ship were absolute, and refusal meant death. On the bridge, the crew stood frozen, their eyes shifting between their commander and the enormous vessel outside. Ralvek's voice crackled over the comm again, dripping with authority. "Commander Zyra, transfer command, now. You have one cycle to initiate the conquest of Earth or face immediate termination." Zyra didn't answer. She turned instead to Alex, who stood by the edge of the command platform, gripping his guitar like it was a shield. "You told me music can reach people," she said, her tone calm but fierce. "Can it reach them?" Alex's heart pounded. "I don't know. But if they're anything like you, maybe." Her four eyes locked on his. "Then we will try." With a single gesture, she opened a wideband transmission, one that would go not only to the enforcer ship, but to every vessel in the Vathri fleet. The crew shifted uncomfortably. No commander had ever done this without the Council's permission. "This is Commander Zyra." Her voice rang out, steady as stone. Before this conquest continues, I ask all who hear me to listen to something." She nodded to Alex. He stepped forward, his hands trembling slightly, then sat on the cold metal floor. He began to play, not loud or aggressive, but slow and deliberate. The first notes floated through the bridge, then spilled into the transmission. The sound spread across the void, carried on encrypted channels into every corner of the fleet. On the Enforcer ship, officers paused, frowning as the unfamiliar melody filled their comms. Across the warship's decks, Vathari soldiers froze mid-task. The music had no translation in their language, but its emotion didn't need one. Zara watched her crew. At first, their faces were hard, suspicious. But as the song grew, something shifted. Shoulders loosened. Breathing slowed. Even the hum of the machinery seemed to fade. On the Enforcer's bridge, High Captain Voris narrowed his eyes. "Cut." "That signal?" "It is." "Resisting termination, sir," a technician replied, confusion in their tone. Voris slammed a clawed hand against the console. "It's just sound. Block it." But the song continued. Alex closed his eyes and let the music guide him, each note carrying the weight of home, of hope, of defiance. He didn't think about fear or the alien fleet outside. He thought about his mother's voice, his father's smile, the sound of rain on his apartment window. He poured it all into the strings. Zey stood tall beside him, saying nothing, letting the music be her voice. Her crew stared at her, then at the human, torn between loyalty to the Empire and the strange pull of this. Finally, the song ended. Silence filled the bridge like a held breath. "This is why I delayed," Zaira said into the open channel. "'Cause this changes everything. This world is not just land and resources. It is alive in ways our empire does not understand. If we destroy it, we destroy something we can never create." On the Enforcer's bridge, Voris's jaw tightened. "You speak treason." "I speak truth," Zaira replied. "And if you wish to remove me, you will do so knowing I stand for something greater than conquest." A long pause followed. The fleet waited. The humans on Earth waited. Alex's chest felt like it might burst from the tension. Then Voris's voice returned, cold and cutting. "Very well. If you will not obey, you are no longer Vathari command." The channel cut. Outside, the Enforcer ship's weapons charged. Red light gathering along its massive cannons. Zaira turned to Alex. "It seems we have reached the final note." The red glow from the Enforcer's cannons washed over. Zaira's warship, like the light of an approaching sun, only this sunrise promised destruction. The crew stiffened at their stations, some gripping their controls as if bracing for the inevitable. The entire ship hummed with the tension of a held breath. Alex's hands were still resting on his guitar. His heart was pounding, but his eyes stayed on Zaira. "You don't have to fight them," he said quietly. "You just have to make them choose something they've never chosen before." Her 4 eyes met his. "They've never chosen mercy." "Then, make it the first time," Alex replied. The comm crackled as High Captain Voris's voice thundered across the channel. "This is your final warning, Zaira. Transfer command now, or be destroyed." Instead of answering, Zara stepped forward into the center of the bridge, activating a ship-wide broadcast so every soldier on her ship and the Enforcers could see her. Her voice was steady, carrying not only authority, but something more. Dangerous in the Vathari Empire. "Conviction. I have followed the Empire's orders my entire life," she began. "I have taken worlds, crushed armies, and bent civilizations to our will. But this world is different. It holds something we have forgotten, a language that needs no translation. A truth that cannot be erased by conquest." She turned toward Alex. "Play." Alex didn't hesitate. He began strumming, but this time it was not a soft or mournful song, it was alive. The rhythm surged like a heartbeat, carrying energy instead of despair. It was a song that spoke of defiance and unity, a sound that dared to tell the galaxy that something was worth protecting simply because it was beautiful. The melody poured into every comm system, flooding the Enforcer's bridge. Technicians paused mid-command. Pilots loosened their grips. Even Vorus's expression faltered for a fraction of a second. Zyro didn't waste the moment. You hear it? This is not weakness. This is strength the Empire does not understand, and I will not destroy it. If that means my end, so be it. The music built, filling the silence after her words. Then something unexpected happened. On the Enforcer's bridge, one of Vorus's officers, a veteran soldier, spoke quietly, almost to himself. It's beautiful. Another crew member, younger, looked at her console and then at her commander. Sir, we don't have to do this. Not today. Vorus's jaw tightened. The council had given him a clear mission, but discipline was crumbling in his own crew. The longer the music played, the more it spread through their resolve like cracks. Inglass back on Zara's bridge, Alex's fingers danced over the strings, his own fear dissolving into the music. He realized this was no longer just about saving Earth. It was about showing an entire species that there was something more than conquest. Finally, the Enforcer's weapons dimmed, a red glow faded. Vorus's voice returned, cold but less certain. This is not over, Zaire. The Council will hear of your defiance. But, for now, we withdraw. The massive black ship rotated slowly, engines flaring as it slipped back into hyperspace. The bridge erupted in hushed murmurs. Some crew members looked relieved. Others looked at Zaira with something close to respect or, at least, curiosity. Alex let out a shaky breath. We did it. Zaira's eyes softened. For now, the Council will send others. But this day belongs to your world. Outside, Earth floated peacefully, untouched. She turned to her crew. Set course away from orbit. We will remain nearby, but at a distance. No attacks, no occupation. Ralvek stepped forward, his voice tight. Commander, this is exile. You will never be welcomed back. I know, she said simply, as the warship began to pull away from Earth. Alex felt the weight of everything that had happened settling on him. He had been just another face in a city full of strangers. Now, somehow, he had helped change the course of an alien invasion. Later, in the quiet of the observation deck, Zaira stood with him, both watching Earth spin below. You risked everything, Alex said. So did you, she replied. Music was your weapon, and it struck deeper than any blade. He smiled faintly. Guess we're both outlaws now. She considered that, then let out a sound that might have been a laugh, low and strange, but real. Perhaps, but sometimes, the only way to protect something is to stand outside the rules. They stood in silence for a while, the planets, lights flickering below. Alex's guitar rested in his hands, ready for the next song. Zaya's eyes stayed on the world she had chosen to spare, knowing that the Empire would not forget her choice. And neither would she. And somewhere, in the quiet between the stars, the last chord of his song still seemed to echo.